All right, welcome back to the Contrarians, everybody. This is just going to be a fun, interesting little show that we put together just to start the year off with a bang. We're going to kind of talk about some of our highlights over the last year. Some of the folks here are going to share some of their pickups from last year. Maybe they're going to share what their favorite album was or their favorite music event or just event in general in the last year. This was meant to kind of be like a drop-in sort of thing, so folks might come and go as they please. I don't know how long we're going to go, but for the Contrarians, put together just a quick little slideshow that I wanted to show off to YouTube, and then we're going to kind of go around and just get everybody's year in review. So let me start off with sharing some Contrarian stuff, which I think folks might find cool. So can everybody see this?
Yeah.
So far.
Yes.
All right. So in the last year, these were our top videos. So our top videos in the Contrarians in the last year by views. Our biggest video last year was bands that should have been huge. That was our top video last year. And then as you can see, it moves on from there. Our second was Def Leppard. Our third was the first episode in our series of Worst Of, which now has been called Build a Bad Album, where basically we take a band who had a bunch of albums and music, and we kind of create a worst of instead of a best of. It's kind of like a yin and yang kind of thing. So a lot of these bands put out these deluxe editions and compilations, and we said, what if these legacy bands put out an album that said, you want our best of? Here's our worst of. So that Kiss one was our first one, and apparently it's did the best last year out of all of them. We also had the Vinnie Vincent discussion. That was a lot of fun. We also had the What If Kiss Alive 3 came out on time, and there's a whole series of those where we basically said every 3 studio albums Kiss put out a live album, what would the track listing be? We did a lot of fun shows like that. Martin Popoff's April Fools from last year was one of our big episodes. That's one of our big episodes every year. We started a couple new series this year. I actually forgot to include the Build a Bad Album series, because that's a brand new series that we started doing. But the Pop Off Archives was a brand new series we started doing. We've got a few of those up. I think some more are going to be on the way. So those are really interesting. That takes advantage of the whole library of interviews that Martin has recorded with a lot of these musicians over the years. We're trying to find a way to put those up. They're kind of documentary style-ish, but it's an interesting way to put some of those interviews to use. We also started the series Spotlight. Well, actually, it's called Showcase. I subconsciously stole the name from Jamie, who has his show where he called it Spotlight, where he interviews folks about their physical collections and stuff like this. So I ended up changing the name to Showcase. So it's actually called Showcase. And we've interviewed a lot of folks that have associated channels. So like we talked to Andee Blacksugar, and we talked to Davy, who actually inspired me because he started doing a very similar thing to this. But a lot of folks, we just did one with Rush fans. You're going to see more. We're going to chat with a lot of people who join our panels and have associated channels so we can get to know them better. And it's a fun series that we started doing. So we started, wow, I think we started like 3 or 4 or 5 different series this year, aside from our regular Contrarians shows. The Mystique documentary came out. Now, this is important to the history of the Contrarians because this is actually how Martin and I met. So that actually came out. This was 5 years in the making. We saw a couple familiar faces. Brett was there. He joins our panels as well. Nick was there too. I didn't find a picture that I took with Nick, unfortunately. So was Uncle Meat from the Patreon, and he joins our panels as well. So that was a lot of fun. We also did our public trivia in support of Parkinson's disease. That got a lot of views and raised awareness about Parkinson's disease. And we showed a light on some different foundations and things like this and charities. And this was suggested by Don. And also David helped a lot with the questions, and we had a lot of fun doing this. And this is also on YouTube, so you can go and check this out as well. I just want to say how proud I am of all the folks that have associated channels. If your channel is not on this list, please let me know, because this goes in the info of our shows, and it just shines a light on all the folks that have amazing channels and are doing all kinds of stuff on YouTube. Most of it's for free. So a lot of these folks are doing content for free, and they've been associated with Contrarians, and they've helped us out a lot. And we just want to say thank you to all the folks who have their own channels and provide their content for free and join us and help us out. And we join them and help them out. It's been amazing to see everybody growing over the last year. Also want to shine a light on some books that Martin Popoff published this past year. So he put out the Pink Floyd and the Dark Side of the Moon 50 Years, incredible book with amazing photos. Martin might actually show off a physical copy. Bowie at 75. this one's been put out this year as well. Again, amazing photos and things like that. These are available. The Killing the Dragon Dio in the 90s and 2000s, Martin Popoff, along with, I'm sure there's some other Martin Popoff books that came out this year as well. So if you're interested in any of those, go to martinpopoff.com. So that was just a quick little slideshow. So I want to thank all the folks who have contributed to the Contrarians over the last several years. This past year was our biggest year ever. The past 2 months, we've put out more content than ever. Like literally, we've been putting out a video every 2-3 days. Some days we put out 2 videos. So we've been really rolling. We rolled into 2023 with some of our most progress that we've had in putting out content over the last couple of months. And I want to thank all the folks here. A couple of folks here have stepped up a bit. Reed, Grant have started hosting Contrarian shows. So we've been getting support that way. You guys are amazing. Of course, Tim, Todd, John, David, you guys are always on our panels, always have amazing things to say. Some of you guys have your own channels, which is amazing. So I just want to thank everybody who's here and who's participated in growing the Contrarians over the last year. It's been amazing. So to basically get into what we were talking about today, after that slideshow, I just kind of wanted to go around and let everybody show off some of the cool grabs that they got this year. Everybody likes to see physical stuff and show off what they got. And you can also tell us what your favorite album was this past year, 2022, but this is kind of like a year in review. So I'm going to go very, very quickly because I've got a bunch of stuff to show off. This isn't even everything, and this isn't even, forgive the mess in the background, but this isn't even, oh, I'd love to show off that piece of hardware I have back there. That thing in the back there is an old record player that I got for free. Maybe I'll take some pictures of that and post that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
It's old. The electronics don't work in it, but it's a really cool piece of furniture, and I've stored some stuff in there. Maybe one day I'll get around to, it's like a whole stereo unit, the speakers on the bottoms and stuff.
I bet you that thing has tubes in it. I bet you.
I'll take some pictures and I'll post it later. Every year I seem to focus on an artist because I like to collect DVDs because I like to watch concerts, musical performances, documentaries and stuff like this. This year I focused on Frank Zappa. I'm a huge Frank Zappa fan. These are all, I basically went over the span of like a few months and just kind of collected all these DVDs. There's a lot of stuff in here. I haven't watched everything. I've watched about maybe half of it. I got this, which is the CD and the DVD of the Roxy performance. This has basically been playing in my car for months and months and months because I normally have my phone. I've watched this performance as well. The Torture Never Stops. This is a good one, filmed at the Palladium in 1981. I got 200 Motels, still sealed. Haven't watched this one yet. Eat That Question. This is a great documentary on Frank Zappa. Zappa in Barcelona. I think this is actually unofficial. So I don't think this was actually official release. I got In the Dub Room special. There's another Zappa performance with some interview segments and some fun things in between. A Token of His Extreme. This is a compilation of a couple of performances. There's the Zappa documentary that came out in 2020. That's a great documentary. Does Humor Belong in Music? I think this is actually my favorite of all the DVDs that I've watched so far. I think it's about an hour long. And the interview segments in between, they're quick, they're entertaining, they're funny. It's just a great performance. If anybody likes Frank Zappa and they're looking for somewhere to start, this is a great performance. Wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I got the Zappa Plays Zappa, so that's awesome. I saw like maybe about half of that. Then I got this documentary compilation of 3 different documentaries. So far, I've seen From Straight to Bizarre, which was very interesting. It talked about Frank Zappa's label in the, I think the 60s and the 70s, which I did not know a lot of that information, so that was interesting. And then it's got one, The Freak Out List. I don't think I've watched that one yet. And Frank Zappa and the Mothers in the 1960s. I don't think I've watched that one yet either, but I've seen that one. That one was great. And Baby Snakes. This was a good one. This one's long compared to the Torture Never Stops. Or sorry, Frank Zappa, Does Humor Belong in Music? This one's long. There's a lot of songs on this, and there's a lot of in-between stuff. Not my favorite in terms of the stuff in between. It seems like there's a lot of guys that I don't even know who they are, if they're even in the band. They're kind of just goofing around backstage, and it wasn't that entertaining, the stuff with them. The performance was great though. There's Baby Snakes. My wife was looking for some documents today actually and found this. So I haven't even seen this. I just got this today. She gave it to me. Queen Live at the Bowl. There's 2 discs.
Is that a boot?
I don't know what this is.
No, that's official.
That's official.
Yeah, it's from the Hot Space tour.
It's funny they make an official DVD, but it looks like a boot. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
It's
to
a
check
funny
that out.
double case, isn't it, Marco? If it's like the one I have.
Yeah, it's got 2 discs in it.
Yeah.
I found this. I have all of Jimi Hendrix official releases and some bootleg stuff of Jimi Hendrix as well. I found this out in the wild, and the reason I'm showing this, if you want to check out my Jimi Hendrix DVD collection, go over to Ryan Gavalier's channel, Ryan's Vinyl Destination. I did a whole thing where I showed off all my Jimi Hendrix DVDs. This one I found for $6. And the reason I picked this one up, I think it's got part of a documentary on it, but apparently it has some never released songs, that footage of never released songs. So that's why I picked this up, but I actually haven't watched this yet. And then the last thing is I finally put out Standing on the Firing Line, the story of Mystique, the documentary. It's available on DVD form. Grant, awesome. John's got his. That's amazing.
Perfect timing, Marco. Perfect timing.
Thank you very
We can
much.
do an unmasking, so to speak.
I appreciate that a lot. Awesome, Martin. Thanks, everybody. John, very cool. So I put this out on DVD. This is available. The link will be in the description, but this was a lot of hard work, 5+ years, zero budget. Literally, the budget came out of my pocket. This is how Martin and I met. And Mystique also put out a reissue of the I Am the King demo cassette that they put out. They recorded in France, and I actually got my hands on this year. So this was really cool. Flynn Records put this out. Also, Nick's not here. I know I'm going long, but Nick Esquire, who is supposed to show up, found a bunch of Elvis paraphernalia and merchandise that he sent me in the mail, which was really cool. So thank you, Nick. I got tons of stuff from Nick. I think I'm going a bit long, so I'm going to pass the buck over now. But thank you, Nick Esquire, for sending me all the Elvis stuff. And I also showed that off on LeBrain Train's channel, Grab a Stack. So if you want to see all my Elvis stuff that I got, go check that out. And why don't we throw it over to Reed? Let us know how your year was. What was your favorite album of 2022? What was your favorite grabs?
Okay, so I didn't grab a whole lot of physical product to show off. I've got one particular thing I'm going to show off, but I really enjoyed 2022. It brought a lot of unexpected opportunities. I've guested on people's channels. Peter Kerr and I recently recorded his 1-year anniversary show for Rock Daydream Nation. I was his first video. We did a David Bowie video. So we did another Bowie video for his 1 year. Told Marco that, I had some free time available and I'd be willing to help out the Contrarians. So now I'm a guest host on the Contrarians. Really enjoyed doing that. Do not have my own show. I do have some persistent health issues. I won't go into it, but I'm not always the most reliable person and I can't handle creating my own content. So working with other people works out well for me. I was surprised actually at the number of new albums that I acquired this year. I thought I hadn't really bought much 2022 music. And then I did a quick Google to see what came out in 2022. And I went, oh yeah, I got that and that and that and that. So couple of honorable mentions for me. I bought KMFDM's new album, Hyena. Our fellow Contrarian Andee Blacksugar plays guitar for KMFDM. I can't compare it to the rest of the KMFDM catalog because it's the only album of theirs that I own, but it's industrial metal with a lot of dance elements and dub and who knows what all else involved. It's fun. And I got the opportunity to meet Andee Blacksugar in person when they came and performed in Dallas. So that was a lot of fun hanging out with him. And my other honorable mention, because I'm contractually obligated to mention Jorn anytime I get the opportunity. Jorn had a new album come out in 2022 called Over the Horizon Radar. I would love to say it's the best Jorn album I've ever heard, but it's not. I would put it about in the middle of the pack. He wrote almost all of the songs by himself, and I think he really needs a good collaborator to bring out his best work. So in terms of music, for me, 2022 was the year of Johnny Marr. Now, I was never a Smiths fan in the 1980s, but a few years back, after reading an article in some guitar magazine, I picked up one of Johnny Marr's solo albums, and I have been a Johnny Marr fanatic ever since. In 2022, he came out with an album called Fever Dreams, parts 1 through 4, and it is amazing. It has great songs. It has great playing. I got to see Johnny Marr in concert. He opened for the Killers. So that's what I want to show off this year is this is my big acquisition.
You got
So
a
that's-
Johnny Marr Jaguar?
So that's the
Holy
limited edition Johnny Marr Jaguar in Fever
Wow.
Dream Yellow.
Nice.
So I have spent the
Wow,
last
what
30
a show
years
off.
basically working on becoming a combination of Tony Iommi and Noel Gallagher, kind of a heavy rhythm guy, and I like to sing and play at the same time. So Johnny Marr's guitar technique is completely alien to me. It's requiring me to completely learn a different approach to the instrument, and it's the most stimulating thing I've done on guitar in years. Also, it's a pretty fine guitar. So yeah, that's my big pickup.
Reed, you're good with that scale length too? It's what's it, 24 and a half? 24 maybe?
The Jag 24-inch.
Yeah.
It's a little difficult to play up the neck. I'm not going to lie. I like the 25.5-inch scale length better, but you get used to it. Also, it's jangly, and being a Tony Iommi guy, jangly is not really where my heart sits, but it's all about learning. It's fun.
All I'm going to say, Reed, is look how far you've come. My goodness, I'm proud of you. I am proud.
It's so weird. I almost never listen to heavy metal these days. It's all rock
You know,
and pop. So
how much heavy metal can one do in their life? It's time to move on and embrace what else is out there.
yeah, I'll still buy the Black Sabbath box set when they release the Tony Martin box set in 2023. I'm all over that.
Nice.
All right, that's me.
Thanks, Reed. Todd, why don't you tell us about your year?
Okay, well, I actually did a top 10 on Twitter and Facebook, so I'm going to go through my top 10 really fast, and unsurprisingly, it also represents some of the best physical acquisitions that I've got. So my number 10 is Clutch Sunrise on Slaughter Beach, and I have to kind of credit Martin for this because he was talking on one of the shows about Blast Tyrant, and so I checked that out on streaming, and so when this came out, I checked it out too and loved it so much. Loved it immediately. Just went out and ordered the album. I liked this instantly. And one of the things that I love about it is that it's only like 33 minutes long. And for this kind of music, that's just the perfect length. This is just a fun fun album. You never get tired of it. And so that was one of my big surprises of the year is how much I like Clutch. And now I've got like a bazillion albums to check out because they have a ton. Elvis Costello and the Imposters, A Boy Named If, number 9, mostly Extraction style rock with a few Americana things thrown in. Really strong album. I didn't like the one before this that came out a couple of years ago at all, so I was really happy to have that. Not going to say much about this one, Death Cab for Cutie, because their albums are also good. This is just another good album by them. And then Ozzy's album really surprised me. I mentioned something about this on one of Grant's shows, and I kind of got some rolled eyes, but I love this album. I don't know how somebody who has so much trouble talking can sing so clearly, and I've been told that he has some technical help, probably. But I love this album. The songs are great. Lyrics are funny, entertaining, and it really surprised me.
It's probably the Parkinson's drugs.
Well, I don't know. Something is working because that's an enjoyable album. This one is one of the ones that I'm really excited about. Some of my metal friends on Twitter told me about this. This is a band from Sweden called Soul Syndicate. I think this is their 3rd or 4th album. It's totally mainstream, almost 80s hair metal, but with a little more metal than that, but very melodic. It's got a ballad on here that is, if you like things like Honeymoon Suite and stuff like that, you would love it. So this album is really, I just think it's great. And so Soul Syndicate, Into the Flames. My number 5 was Tears for Fears, The Tipping Point. A lot of people are talking about this album. I don't want to say too much about it, but I was not sold on it when I first heard it because it's really low key and it doesn't have any songs where Roland, really just belts out some amazing vocal, but it's really elegant and really beautiful and it kind of creeps up on you. So that's This is them all looking all brooding on the back. One of my favorite bands in the world, Amorphous. I can't believe this isn't number 1, but it's number 4. Amorphous was the band that kind of introduced me to heavy metal and listening to heavier music, because I didn't know that there was heavy music that was this melodic and this beautiful. But Amorphous is a band from Finland, and the singer sings both harsh and clean vocals. And his clean vocals style is, he kind of sounds like Peter Murphy. It's kind of almost like a goth kind of thing, but gorgeous music. And this is where I learned to be able to appreciate harsh vocals, because I just kind of thought to myself, you know, in other parts of the world, that's everybody, like a lot of people, a lot of bands do this and people like it. So maybe I should stop being so hung up on it. And so I credit Amorphous for opening up my mind a little bit. My third favorite is this right here. It's Elder Innate Passage. Don't remember exactly how many albums Elder have. I'm brand new to them. This is the only album from them I've ever heard, but it's kind of metal. I've heard it described as stoner rock. It's got keyboards and mellotron and a little bit of math rock thrown in. Really interesting. Definitely the most unique thing that I've heard all year. And then number 2, Porcupine Tree, which I think is great. This album kind of creeps up on you, and it's got a lot of unconventional ways that the songs go. They kind of surprise you. It's got 2 really strong ballads, and it's just a great album. I knew it was going to be good, but yet I was still surprised. And my number 1 is Marillion's An Hour Before It's Dark. I kind of thought that, I'm a huge Marillion fan, and I kind of thought that this was, that I'd heard the best Marillion there was, and that they were going to keep, coming up with stuff that was close to their best stuff, but I would just enjoy it anyway. But this sort of came out of left field and really knocked my socks off. Really, really touching lyrics. There's a song called Care about healthcare workers during the pandemic that is just blew my mind. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so that's my number 1. And as far as the year goes, I've been real lucky to be on a whole bunch of shows. I've done a bunch of fun things on Rush Bands. I've been on Grant's Rock Warehouse a whole bunch of times, and that's been a lot of fun. I've been on Tim's show, where Tim and I and a couple of other folks from Rush Bands, Ryan Murphy and Ralph, took turns trying to take Hussheim art from other bands and try to decide, if we thought it would make a good Rush album cover. And that was a lot of fun. I won't talk too much about that in case Tim wants to talk about it. But I was on John's show. John, I'm pretty sure that was this year, and discovered a cool band called Love Coma that I'd never heard of. And looking forward to launching my own channel probably sometime in March. In the brainstorming phase right now, trying to figure out a concept and a title.
Rock and roll.
Wow, very cool, Todd. Thanks for sharing all that. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Why don't we throw it over to John then? John, take it away.
All right. Well, one, I've got to think. I'll take my background off because it won't show up any stuff I'm showing off here. But I got to thank Todd and Ryan and a few other people who kind of helped me turn this on to my little. This was probably my biggest pickup, I think, of the year, is my little Audio Technica turntable here. So
I was just going to tell you, it looks great behind you.
Yeah, it looks. This is very nice. The speakers are just real small ones. I don't have anything really crazy, but it's good enough for what I need. And boy, I'll tell you what, I've just had so much fun listening to vinyl again. It's just been an absolute joy. So I had to show that off. So now I can kind of show off. So I'm not going to really talk about it a lot of like my favorite music from the year, because on my channel, my music corner, with a little group that I call the North and South Rock and Metal Connection, we're gonna talk about our favorite releases of 2022. So we're gonna be talking a little bit about that. So I don't want to give a whole lot away, just but I want to share some. I'm going to kind of jump on how Marco did it. there was an artist stuff that I got into that I've always have been into, but I'm like, okay, I'm pushing the envelope to further further learn more about it. So so some of the, like, I picked up some books, which I've yet to start reading because I'm a terrible reader and I'm probably get like 5 pages and I'm asleep. So I really wish I should have gotten these on audiobook. But anyway, Angels with Dirty Faces by Kelly Garney, the original Quiet Riot bass player, played with Randy Rhoads. Good friend of longtime childhood friend of Randy Rhoads. I picked up the Bob Daisley book for fact's sake. Can't wait to get into that. There was a Kickstarter Indiegogo thing for this book called Keep on Rolling. My fan club years with Kevin Dubrow and Quiet Riot by a lady named Missy Whitney, who was a very behind the scenes person with getting a Quiet Riot fan club up and running way back in the day. So this is kind of I'm kind of filling in some Randy Rhoads stuff. Of course, I've done videos on this talking about the Quiet Riot 1 and 2 reissue box sets that No Remorse Records and Grease put out, and these super limited babies were only limited to about 200. Has the vinyl, cassette, and CD, plus a poster and a few other odds and ends of knickknacks. That's the second one. So very nice looking box sets. One of these days, I still want to try to do a comparison to the original to the reissue, because I think these reissues are kind of touched up some. I think it's more of the touched up some. So we'll see what happens there. But so I've always been a Randy Rhoads fan, and so I'm really having to really dig deeper into Randy. You might see a little bit of motif with what I'm wearing. Of course, I got to show off my one of the things I got signed when I saw Wasp in November. This was just this was just something that I never thought I would get to do, and it just I still haven't yet to find the words, because it really was just a memorable night, and it'll probably be with me till the day I die. Other books that I will hope to start checking into: Destination Onward, Story of Fate's Warning. Always been a Fate's Warning fan, and I've heard a lot of good things about this book. I've yet to dig into it. I wish I could say I had gotten some of Martin's books this year. I think I only have a couple, but I need to get some more Martin stuff. So I'll get there sometime, but I'm really bad about reading. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this wonderful book. Gotta plug Tim's stuff. Even though I think I got this late last year, it's still a wonderful book, and I'm very thankful that I've gotten to know you a little bit, Tim, and through all you guys through all this stuff. It's just been amazing. Of course, the Mystique DVD. Y'all, if you haven't gotten this yet and you have yet to watch this is amazing. It's a wonderful documentary. Took me back to when I was a teenager and I had those dreams of wanting to do music and stuff like that. Of course, I never got as far as what Mystique did, but I certainly had those dreams. And of course, the CD, which I can't wait to listen to as well. What can I say? It's been a great year. I feel like I haven't been on the Contrarians quite as much in 2022, so I hope to rectify that a little bit in 2023. But I've been doing my own stuff on the music corner. The big stuff being the rock and metal, the North and South rock and metal connection, and that's always been a blessing to do that. So that's I'm gonna just leave you all with that. Tune in this weekend. You'll get to see my picks and the other guys' picks for what we liked in music for 2022.
Awesome. Thank you very much, John. What a very productive year for you. I'm going to throw it over to Grant next. Why don't you tell us about your year?
Holy mackerel. My year, you know what, kids? I wish I could complain, but I can't. This would have to be one of the best years that I've had in my life. being on the Contrarians, starting my own channel 8 months ago has like changed my whole world. And I want to thank, well, I'm going to thank everyone here on the panel because they've all been on my show. But I do want to say that there's been some incredible things. Todd, I went down to visit Todd in November. Holy mackerel. I've never shopped for so much content and CDs in my life or records. Todd and I went crazy.
That's
But
the
we went
most
and
I've
saw-
spent since I was in my 20s, and I didn't pull it all out here because there's too much of it. It
I
would
want to
take an
blame,
hour.
it's all my fault. But we saw Pylon Reenactment Society. It was quite a trip, and I don't know, it was fun. I'll always remember it. But like I said, I want to thank everybody for coming on my channel. We've done the April wine series. Holy shit, we're not even done with that yet. But that has to be one of the epic things. Todd and I have the Matthew Sweet series. We interviewed Scott Byron, who was the A&R rep for Zoo Entertainment. Has to be one of the best things we ever did. And of course, we've had Vanessa on from Pylon several times. Great stuff. I keep waiting for John Clauser to do that Wasp episode. For God's sakes, man, I've got all this Wasp material. Try to say Wasp real fast. And
I'm
there's
getting
no
there, I'm
show.
getting
There's no show to talk about it. I'm
I'm
waiting.
getting there.
Waiting.
I'm getting there.
But I've been on Mike Ladurno's show. That was fun. We talked about The Darkness, which I love. The Darkness. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. Holy crap, that was fun. But some of the highlights of my year, I would have to say, of course, is the Beatles, if I could show it the right way. The Revolver box set. I mean, how could this not be at the top of, look at Todd with this little box set. But look, I've got the big box set. This is great. But I would have to say, I don't know, Todd, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but since we talked to Vanessa this year, you would have to admit, and I'm going to say because I got this year, this is one of the highlights.
It's,
I've got that.
it's the nicest box set I have in my collection for sure.
Highly recommended. A lot of people don't know Pylon, but this is the band that REM said was the best. Quote me, Todd, if I'm wrong. They said that Pylon was the best band ever.
Yeah, it was
right?
when they were called the best band, and they said no, it's not us, it's actually Pylon.
There you go. But anyway, I'm gonna have to give my number one record. The best album of the year is the Scorpions album. I have to admit, because for a legacy band, Rock Believer had to be number one on my list, because think about it. How many legacy bands could put out John Clauser, of course, thank you for the visual. How many legacy bands could come back after all these years and produce something so great? I'm just saying, it's great. They were on top of it. I'm going to go with another one, The Tipping Point from Tears for Fear. I'm Tears for Fears. Like Todd, I'm going to put that at my number 2. They pick up right off where they left before. What can I say? Top-notch material. It's way above people's heads. It's not an instant. When you first listen to it, you may think about it and go, but the more you listen to it, the more it has to offer. Number 3, these really aren't really ranked, but I'm going to number 3 them, is Elvis Costello and the Imposters, The Boy Named If. Great CD. I saw them on this tour. Wasn't so knocked out by the tour. Little boring. Elvis was just kind of, I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. But the record is good. I'll give it that. The other one I'm going to come in on is Wet Leg, Wet Leg. If anybody hasn't heard that, it's like these people are like in their 20s. What was the song? Now I can't remember what it was. Something about, I'm having a brain crisis, but they're English. It's great stuff. It's alternative. I would check it out. Look up Wet Leg album. The other one I'm going to mention is The Smile. No one's mentioned this. A Light for Attracting Attention, which is a Radiohead offshoot, which has Tom York and Johnny Greenwood on it. If you like Green Day, but you like the more accessible Green Day, holy shit. If you like the more accessible Radiohead, this is for you. Check it out. Like I said, Tom York and Johnny Greenwood's on this. It's her debut record. Check it out. And then the only other thing I want to mention is Bjork, Persona. That was her latest record, and I love the Sugar Cubes. In fact, that just gives me another idea to do another show. Sugar Cubes. I love the Sugar Cubes, and they do that. But check out Bjork. Yet another quality release from Bjork. Experimental. She's kind of out there, but you know, what do you got? That's what you got. So there you go. There's something for you to dwell on, you know. But the Scorpions, I would have to say, is my number one.
Awesome. I forgot I saw the Scorpions this year in concert in Toronto. Great show.
I don't know how you could forget
They're
that.
still rocking. They're doing amazing.
It's a great record. Just the fact that a legacy band could pick up, because I would say this would be a great record if it picked up right after like Blackout or something. This would fit right in there. Amazing stuff. Highly recommended. Go get it, boys.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have to.
It was the first out. It was the first
And
Scorpions
girls.
I've heard about in forever. So I agree.
Yeah, I have to say that when everybody was talking about how great it was, I listened to the title track, and the night that I listened to that title track, I listened to it 10 times in a row because that song is so good. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I was just like,
Hell yes,
how can
Todd.
they make a song this good? It really is great.
They still have it. But see, if you take enough time off between releases, you can write stuff. Anyway, it's great. It just sounds like 1984. I swear to God, check it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant. Tim, why don't you tell us about your year?
Well, you know, I've got to first of all mention, getting the book out. It seems like it was longer than that, but yeah, it was just this year the physical copies came out. And thanks to everybody that bought it, and thanks to Martin for writing forward, and Marco for contributing to the chapter, and everybody that bought a copy. Just one of those goals crossed off the list. And but prior to that, I didn't even know I had that on my list. So that's a pretty big deal. And as far as like, I'm going into low power mode. Okay, I'll make this quick. I may have to reposition my phone, and I'll have to drop out of this after I stop filming. So bear with me here, guys. Plug this in. Strictly high budget here, which is to say, not at all. I'm gonna stay in one place. No, it's not. All right, so we one hand. That's fine. I've got the stuff in front of me. This is basically all what you'd call legacy acts, and these are all albums that I've talked about to some extent on my previous episodes. First one is one that Martin and I reviewed, Sammy Hagar and the Circle, Crazy Times. This album has grown on me a lot more. I like it more every time I hear it. At first, I was like, it's kind of mellow in spots, but I'm getting to like the mellow stuff. In honor of, I just listened to it. It's one of my favorite podcasts yet that Martin did, History in 5 Songs. Did Canadians invent hair metal? So in honor of that, guy that hasn't put out new music in forever, Aldo Nova, the Life and Times of Eddie Gage, a rock opera, 10-song EP, a little preview. John T. Snow and I reviewed this not too long ago. I'm interested to hear the whole thing when it comes out, but there are some great tracks on here. I've always been a fan of his. I always wished he made more music, so he seems to be doing that now. So that's a cool thing. Artist I haven't been into for that long. Yeah, so I was actually waiting for this album. Joe Satriani, Elephants of Mars. I think there's some great stuff on here. I like listening to his stuff when I'm trying to get work done because I find it just helps me focus. Sometimes I have to turn everything off and really think. But another one of my favorite albums of the last year is Queensryche, Digital Noise Alliance. I've liked all the Todd Latore albums they put out. This one's no exception. They cover Rebel Yell by Billy Idol on the end of this. I don't think it's considered to be part of the album. And it sounds way better than you'd ever think Queensryche covering Billy Idol would sound. It's awesome. I would love to be in a situation where there's like an 80s party and you slide their version of that on and see if anybody notices. But I got to say, my favorite album that came out in 2022, I was really, really surprised by it, pleasantly so, because they'd been kind of in the weeds for a while. I really like the new Skid Row. The gang's all here. Eric Gronwall, Swedish guy called him Kid. He's like in his mid-20s, battled cancer, and he sounds awesome. And they figured out how to write good hard rock songs again, my opinion. And just one more thing, it's my favorite reissue of the year. It's possibly my favorite Kiss album, The Creatures of the Night 40th. I don't have the full deluxe version, although I have heard a lot of the tracks, and there's some really cool stuff on there. I've also got a half-speed master of the album that I was given. So yeah, that was some of the cool stuff that I thought came out in 2022. Like I said, I've reviewed all of those new albums, and it's been a pleasure doing the Contrarians. It's been a pleasure getting to know everybody here and guesting. Anytime I'm asked to guest on someone's show, it's a complete honor. And I love sitting in on the panels, love doing the trivia. So hopefully we have some more of that. The worst albums are fun. Martin and I knocked out those Aerosmith ones and got a lot of people really angry, that's the idea. They don't, some people just don't get the joke. These are bands we like. We just don't like every song. So yeah, that was my 2022. It was a great year. Hope everybody has a great, new year. And I've got to fly, but we will see all of you guys later. So yeah,
see you, Tim.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your work.
The best is yet to come this year, kids. So be ready.
Yeah, and I forgot Tim's book came out this year because I read it when I lived in Niagara Falls, and that was like 3 or 4 moves ago for me. So that felt like a lifetime ago. But I'm gonna throw
Mark,
it
are
over
you
to
sure move a lot? I just want to
I
say.
know don't get me started. The last 3 years have been a disaster, but I've moved 6 times since 2019.
Oh my
But I think this is
God.
the last one for a while. So I'm gonna throw it over to David next. So David, tell us about your year, and then we'll get to Martin. He can tell us about his year.
Awesome. So yeah, 2022 probably felt like the fastest year ever. We just sped by that bad boy, right? I do want to thank the Contrarians for letting me on this when I started doing panels on here. I've also been a part of some other channels, every spin-offs here. Ryan's Vinyl Destination, Ryan Gavalier's not here. Grant's here. Grant, thank you for letting me on your show. Rock Daydream Nation I've been on, Peter Kerr's channel. And Average Joe Beck's channel. And which we just did a few days back, a top 22 releases of this year. So I don't want to be redundant and go over my picks, but I will say, Todd, one of your picks is one of my picks that I picked, the number 2, the Elder and It Passages. Awesome. I'll talk more about that like in the other video and not right now. But there were a couple of albums that I didn't get to mention on that show because it was kind of ad hoc. And one I'm going to get into is not really that well known. So this is a band that came from, I guess some members came from the ashes of a band called Astra. And the band's name is Born. And I'll show you, I don't have a physical copy, but I can show you what this looks like. Judge a book by its cover. This album sounds exactly the way that looks. This is prog, and it sounds like 70s. This is just amazing. I love this album. Just came out like a couple months ago. They're from San Diego. This is my fix for Adam Hart Mother, Metal, Pink Floyd, or I love Camel, Mirage. You know what I mean? That period, Moon Madness. This is what this sounds like. ELP, classic period, and especially like my recent binging on Uriah Heep. So if that sounds like something you might like, long songs that go off into space and everything like that, check this album out, because I'm telling you right now, this stuff is fire, bro. Like, this is an awesome album. The other album I'm going to mention, and I will, this was a surprise because I forgot this came out this year. I listened to it for like a second and I was like, I'll get back to it. And I just didn't get back to it. And I've been listening to it this week. And this actually might be my favorite pick of album of the year. But right here, Liam Gallagher's 3rd album. Come on, Awesome album.
Nice.
I'm usually the biggest Oasis fan around until I go on the internet. No one that I've met in person is as big of a fan as I am. So I kind of should get beat up in the comments for not automatically like being drawn to this album and listening to it ad nauseum. But you know, you got to be in the mood sometimes to get into things. It's got to be the right time. I'm gonna name drop Martin Popop's History in 5 Songs. Had an episode called "Firing Robert Plant," and I recalled that episode when I was listening to this album, because that helped me get into Robert Plant. Even though I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan, I kind of just didn't bother with it. And the gist of the episode is kind of just when Plant went solo, or a solo artist, having the session musicians and everybody helping them out to make a sound that's just as good, if not even better, and more progressed than what the classic stuff is. So for fans of Oasis, it doesn't sound like it's Oasis in the 90s. The band's been broken up for almost 14 years now. So he's progressed. There's so much on this album. I couldn't skip any of it. It starts off with a song that's produced by Emil Haney, who, I know this isn't in the wheelhouse, but this is a producer of early Kid Cudi and Lana Del Rey. There's a song that has Dave Grohl on drums. Everybody's Electric is a single. Song has Dave Grohl on drums. Amazing. There's a song on here called, what was it called again? World's in Need. That's probably my favorite track on it. It's like a folky sound to it. It has harmonica, but it's a bit eclectic. It seems like it's Liam's most eclectic. And even though I tend to have sided with Noel as far as having the better output solo, this is getting me to actually want to revisit the other Liam albums and go back and see if I actually can. They're up to the snuff of what Noel's output has been. So the other thing I want to mention is that I do have these here. So another shameless plug, Martin Popoff books. Look at that. Uriah Heep. I've been obsessed with Uriah Heep for the past month. This book's awesome. I got this book this year. I'm not even a big BOC fan, but huge into the occult, the Flaming Telepaths book. I just started cracking this one open. Awesome stuff. And of course, like I'm obsessed with Judas Priest. I got the Judas Priest Decade of Domination book. All these books are awesome. I'm so glad to have been able to grab them and have them signed and whatnot. So I'll leave it with those 2 albums. If you want to check out that episode, Average Joe's, that'd be cool. But Liam Gallagher's probably going to be my pick for the best album. He does a cover. There's a remix to one of the singles called Diamond in the Dark by DJ Premier, which is not in the wheelhouse of the Contrarians, but DJ Premier for the layman is pretty much like the Tony Iommi of producers when it comes to New York hip hop from the 90s. You're gonna have a debate who's the best producer and say that it's not him. The internet is gonna just come in and pile on you. So it's amazing to hear that type of production over a Liam Gallagher vocal, and it works. It's not contrived. It doesn't sound forced or anything like that. It just sounds awesome. It's actually probably my favorite song that he's released all this year. But I'll leave it at that, man. I'll let the panel get on.
David, it's too bad that Reed's not here, because Reed and I did a show on Noel Gallagher and the High Flying Birds. So check that out. But Reed's a big fan of Liam too. Beady Eye and all that. Have you heard the Beady Eye, the record? Okay.
Yeah.
Holy crap. So hopefully Reed sees this, because I'm going to pick up that Liam record. Yeah,
I got to hang out with a couple of other Gallaghers, but that had nothing to do with Oasis. But that was the brothers Gallagher of Raven. So I tried to throw the picture up.
Different
Gallaghers.
Different Gallaghers. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks.
And then there's Davy Gallagher, but that's a
whole other story. You cinema flicks and music picks. Finally getting it right.
Oh, there's another. Yeah. Gallagher. Different. Yeah. Well, David, that was cool.
All right. Thanks, David. I'm going to throw it over to Martin. Give us the highlights of your year.
Okay, so yeah, a little variety here. So I would say top albums for me would have been the Clutch album for sure. I agree with Todd and Grant on the Scorpions album, the Porcupine Tree as well. It's funny when Marco, you were going through all that Zappa stuff, I was playing Broadway the hard way today on a big long walk. So that was pretty cool. But yeah. So this is one of the kind of the fanciest cool things I got. And I got this sent to me because I wrote a bunch of liner notes for it, but it's the Venom to Hell and Back cassette box set. This is all
Wow.
cassettes in here.
Wow.
Booklets,
Wow.
stickers, all sorts of crazy stuff. I'll see if I can pop a couple things in here out of it. So yeah, it comes with a hardcover book. Let's see. Patches, big flag. Oh, I should take all this out. More patches. You know, this is all like actual patches, a poster. Wow. Yeah, this is too much to unpack, but yeah, and it's all cassettes. So that was cool. Marco, the Mystique debut was amazing. The party you put on for that was killer. Huge pile of people came out. There was merch. The film was awesome. Concert wise, the Bjork album was good as well. I got into Idols this year. Ed Whitmore got me into them. I'm going to check out the Liam Gallagher, the Tears for Fears, the Pylon, the Elvis Costello. I haven't played any of those yet. Concert wise, the Clutch was really cool, and I got to interview Neil for that album. And Scorpions, I got to do 2 separate Zoom calls, interviews on that album, which was cool. But my favorite was back in May. Going to see Tease and getting all this stuff fully signed by the original Tease from the 70s, all 4 members of the band. There's your nice heavy Tour of Japan album. This is the one with the whole gatefold, looking cool. And then the notorious 1976 debut, one of the good heavy albums of Canadian rock. And then you've got your One Night Stand. So I had to drive down to Windsor to see this. And you've got your body shots there. And Brian Danter, Mark Braddock, Mike Kozak, Chuck Price. Mark was absolutely the greatest host. Brian Danter's just like singing up a storm at 71 years old, so much power. Went over the border, went to Detroit, went to the art gallery, went down to the Sea of Tranquility thing. That was cool too. Went to Washington, DC, went to a bunch of art galleries. But yeah, and then the late development of the year is I started being inspired by these panels that we've all been doing, and it got me into going back and doing those album by album type books. Now I'm going to do these for my UK publisher. They aren't going to be as high gloss and amazing and hardcover the way they are, but I've gotten through 2 of them, and we've got Grant on one, Todd on one, David on one. John hasn't been on one yet. Wrong bands yet. Tim Derling, I'm surprised, hasn't been on one. Reed, who just left us, has been on 2 now. So I'm halfway through the 3rd one of those, and then I think Marco's probably going to be on the next one if he wants, because that's a band that he said he'd be part of, and I think a few of you guys will be possibly on that next one. But there's 4 bands that I might do next. I just have to figure out which one I'm going to do. But right now I'm in the 3rd one. Probably shouldn't announce who the bands are yet, because I don't think the publisher said anything about any of these yet. But I've totally enjoyed doing those and talking to all you guys about those and going through those catalogs. But yeah, that's been kind of the late development. What else do we got here? So I mentioned the Cult. There's going to be possibly a new Cure album in next very, very quickly, right? So we'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. I might have to come back and talk to a couple of you again. If that album actually comes out fairly soon. But yeah, thanks for the recommendations as well. I'm definitely gonna go play some of this stuff you guys have been talking about.
Marco's holding up stuff. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I started doing the card versions of those. So I did the next set of those cards of those drawings I've been doing. So I've got a whole that was 23 of those. And then there's now 27 following. And then I got the full 8.5 by 11 size prints of all the new ones as well. So I'm up to 50 of those portraits and about 30 of the fake ads so far. But I haven't done much lately because I've been so inspired by these album by album book projects.
Yeah,
so
look at how cool
old stuff
these look.
because of those.
These are awesome.
Yeah.
They're numbered.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
There's writing on the back.
With the whole thing about what show it's from and who took the picture originally and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of my year so far. But yeah, the late development was getting back into, because I really didn't have much coming out. I've got 4 or 5 books finished that are coming out next year, but Those were written a long time ago, and but just been really excited about getting all you guys involved in these panel things.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. You've also released some books, which I went over earlier in the video. So what I'm going to do now, we basically got everybody's year in review. What I'm going to do now is wrap up that portion. If anybody it's been about an hour. If anybody needs to take off, feel free to take off. This was just meant to be a drop-in show so folks can come and go as they please. But I think what I'll do is I'll probably go a bit longer for whoever wants to stay and hang out a bit longer. I think we'll go a bit longer. I realize there's a few things I didn't mention about my year, that some music that I've been listening to and some new music I've been listening to that I kind of want to go over. So I think we'll kind of just have a chat portion of the show. If anybody's welcome to leave, if they want to leave, if anybody wants to stay and just hang out and chat a little bit, maybe a little bit more of an informal chat, feel free to stick around. But for anybody any viewers who want to go, who just wanted to see the year in review portion, thanks for following us. Like and subscribe all the channels you find in the link in the description, because we've got a lot of cool folks who join our topics, and they will appreciate the like and subscribe as well. So this portion is going to be wrapped up. We'll see everybody later, and we're going to kind of do a little hangout portion. So